What if there were some ways to actually deal with anger on a much higher level? What if we just understood that anger is really nothing more than a signal? And what if we were able to channel it and express it differently? Hello and welcome to Voices of Victory podcast show. I am your host, Mario D. Leone, and we're going to talk about understanding and managing anger. Yes, we all fall to it. Listen, we all fall to it. It is an impulse. The way we deal with it is going to be interesting. So we're going to break down the real actual mechanics of anger, what you're up against. And that being said, I want you to know that anger isn't just some kind of wild beast that jumps out of nowhere. Okay, it's a buildup. It's a pattern. You are a pattern. Your emotions are a pattern. Your thinking is a pattern. And your behavior is a fucking pattern. That's how it goes down. That's the reality. That's the truth. It's a pattern. It's a cycle. And once you see that pattern, you can actually interrupt it. And that takes some effort. You're going to have to put some effort in. That's what is required. I wanted to outline that so clearly, is that anger isn't just one emotion. It's a sequence. It's a format. I want to break that down. We're going to look at the very first thing, which is a trigger. We all understand the trigger. Something happens, it ticks you off, could be disrespectful, could be disregard, feeling dismissed. It could be small, but it strikes a nerve and suddenly you're really upset as a result. Now, that's the trigger. When we go over to thoughts are something we wind up replaying in our heads. Start to repeat the thoughts, repeat the words, repeat the phrases over and over again that you hear from other people. Or maybe it's the self-talk you're repeating in your head. And then the automatic reactions that come from that. The narratives, the story, you keep replaying that story over and over again in your head. The story of disrespect, the story of disregard, feeling dismissed, the narratives, the judgment, the harsh self-judgment, all the storylines, all of your storylines. You know what they are going to do? Every time you recycle them, you recycle that pattern, you replay that pattern, it's just going to make it worse. So there is an emotional surge that occurs. You have the thoughts, you have the trigger, then there's an emotional surge. Bam! It could be full of shame, could be full of embarrassment, could be full of rage. It's the story that fuels the actual fire. And when you say, oh, but that's not just a story, it is a story. It's a story that's connected to you. And the more you tell that story, the more aggravated you will become. If you go around all day long telling people how you were made angry, you will simply recycle your anger and generate more anger. That's the thing. The story fuels the fire. And you're going to have some health issues related to this because of the fact there's physical reactions. When you get angry, your body gets a little chemical cocktail. Your body joins in. The heart racing, the palm sweating, the clenched jaw, all of that. Nightmares at night, whatever the case may be, you're going to have a physical reaction. If we think that it's not going to impact our health, guess again, because it will impact a little at a time. It's much like a drop of water hitting a rock 1,000,000 times until that rock wears down and starts to form a different shape because the water has been hitting it over and over and over again. It's a slow drip and it causes that shift. It causes that physiological reaction. It causes the changes in the body over time. Even palm sweating can be a part of it. And then finally, we have the behavior. We have to take a look at that behavior, the external explosion. I want to explode on that person. I want to yell. I want to snap. I want to say something that I'm going to regret and just dig myself in a deeper idea. And the interesting thing about anger is whenever you're attached to a given idea so strongly, like if there's an idea, there's a belief that's connected to your identity, and it's really tied to your identity. And the more you are clinging and hanging on to that belief, any belief that's opposite of that will become a threat to you and could aggravate you. That's the first thing we want to understand, is that the ego is involved. And that anger will grow. The stronger the belief, the stronger it's attached to the identity, the more of their opposition, the more of an opposition to that belief out there is what's going to anger you. Anything that's opposite, because it's based on what you stand for, and you've tied it so harshly to your belief, you've tied it so harshly to your identity, that anything that opposes that will drive you into an anger or a rage. And you got to watch out for that, because what happens is your emotions become the puppet strings for other people. But you know what? It's impacting your health. Like it or not, that's the reality. It's impacting your health. So when the behavior comes, you could wind up putting yourself in situations of regret. You could wind up exacerbating circumstances in your life, making them worse than they actually are. So I want to give you some real world strategies to help disarm this cycle. Okay. First of all, some people say take 3 deep breaths. I say no, forget that. Inhale fully and hold it for a 4 count, and then let it out slowly and do it again. Inhale fully, hold it for 4 count, not to be confused with 4 seconds, and let it out slowly. First off, that's the first thing. Now we have to understand that some of these triggers come from narratives. Narratives come from scripts, life scripts, the things that we adopt as children when we grow up. You know, as we grow up, we form our identity, and as we form that identity, there's a whole bunch of stories behind them, and below that, there's a bunch of life scripts. Think of life scripts as your conditioning. You know, the words that were said to you, the beliefs that you carry, all of that stuff. All of the conditioning is all there. And if we look for the triggers, could be money, could be family, could be politics, could be something that always is setting you off. And we have to have a script, a new script that's going to interrupt or disrupt that old story, that old pattern, that old behavior. And sometimes it's okay to say something that's going to end an argument. If it's already started and voices are getting raised, just say, you know what, I need a minute, or let's come back to this later. There's exit doors, okay? I need a minute. Matter of fact, I need a few minutes. I need to sit here for a moment and just process what you're saying. And take that time. Delay your responses, no exceptions. Delay them. Delay them. If the more you train yourself to derail your responses, the more you train yourself to disrupt your responses, the more you're going to be able to break that old pattern. That's what I want to tell you. So tell people, I need a minute. I need a minute. I need some time. I need to think about this for a moment. I'm not going to answer on this now. I need more time to think about this, right? Say something that ends the fight and go from there. Now, watch your anger like an outsider. What does that mean? Well, when you say, I am angry, you will reinforce your anger. You will make your anger even worse because you're saying, I am angry. So that I is the first letter in identity. The more you say, I am angry, the more your anger increases. If I say, I am experiencing anger, then what happens is you're no longer in the soccer game. You're on the sidelines watching. That's what I mean by you become the outsider, you become the observer. You start to observe what you feel without becoming it. You get to label it. You say, I am experiencing anger. I'm experiencing frustration. It's different than saying, I am angry, I am frustrated. When you say the I am angry, I am frustrated, you are exacerbating and increasing those feelings. When you say, I'm experiencing anger, and you inhale, hold it, 4 count, and then release. That's a good thing. And get curious. Get curious. Curiosity is a superpower. It allows you to be objective rather than one-sided. And it gets you to become less reactive. Why? Because you're using the prefrontal cortex of the brain, which is connected to that objectivity and that logic. Okay? So you could always change or shift the emotion. Sometimes you just need to change. Walk, music, a puzzle. Do anything that helps your nervous system reset. If you could do something logical, like, for example, do a math problem, or do something like a puzzle where it's more logic involved, it'll straight up like bring you to a different place, without a doubt. Without a doubt. I'm going to give you a contemplation. I'm going to give you 5 thoughts that are going to act as a way of contemplation. See, there's overthinking and then there's contemplation. Overthinking is when you repeat the thoughts in your head over and over again. It's all thought-based. There's no feeling involved. But contemplation is when you have a thought and you ask yourself how you feel about it. So instead of trying to like meditate the anger away, it's going to be more effective to do some kind of breath work. Look into pranayama. Pranayama is priceless. The yogic breathing style, it's priceless for anger. So there's 5 patterns. Think of them as thought reframes or patterns that are going to help you reroute that mental anger current. It's redirecting that energy of anger into a different area. Instead of it pulling you under, it'll pull you forward. As a martial artist, I get angry, but we channel it. We channel it. We hit the bag harder. We move in different ways. We start to utilize our energy in different ways. We break boards. It's all different tools. And anger is nothing more than a signal, but it is a form of expression. And what's important is that we express it in a healthy way. We train ourselves to express it in a healthy way because maybe as children, we weren't allowed to feel that way. Or maybe as children, we weren't allowed to speak or have a voice. So every time we were silenced, we became angry, right? So let's go over these 5 thought patterns to help you rethink your anger. The very first one I want to bring to the table is that anger is a signal and it can be expressed in a healthy way. I can express anger in a healthy way. Anger is a signal. It's trying to tell you something. A lot of our emotions are trying to tell us something. It's like a signpost in the woods trying to tell us where to go and how to direct it. It's not a solution. It is a tool. It is a form of expression. And we have to be able to express ourselves in healthy ways. That's the first thing. You could add on to that or think about it as, what's the outcome I actually want here? What is the outcome I actually want here? And is anger moving me towards it? Because if you believe that anger is moving you towards it, then that means you're connecting to control, which is unhealthy. If anger is moving you away from it, you could be using it as a tool and channeling it into a wise direction. Another contemplation is, I have more useful options than staying angry. I have more useful options than staying angry. Another one is, anger is something I'm processing right now. So to add on to this, like, what would I do right now if I weren't so invested or attached to being right? And that's the thing. People are very attached to being right. I have to be right. The ego says you must be right. So you become attached to that and you fuel that anger even more. So what would I do right now if I weren't so invested in being right? What's the alternative to this? What's the other angle? What am I not seeing? And that's another thing too, is they say that anger can blind you. You're absolutely right. It can blind you. It can blind a lot of people. That's why they say blind rage, right? The old movie from the 80s, Blind Fury. What am I not seeing? Is there something to see here? That's important. That's the contemplation. So you have more useful options than staying angry. Another contemplation is, letting go gives me back my mental clarity and emotional power. Letting go gives me back my mental clarity and emotional power. Because with that anger, what is it costing you to carry that emotionally? Because you're just going to replay it like an old program in your mind, and you're just going to replay it. And as you replay it, every time you replay that anger, memories and visual pictures, mental movies come up, and you get another chemical pop, another chemical cocktail of stress and cortisol. All kinds of stressful chemicals in the body start to get released again and again and again. What are you doing to yourself? What are you doing to your body? So what is it costing you to carry this? That's it. That's what I mean by letting go gives you back your mental clarity and your emotional power. But what is it costing you to carry this? Ask yourself that. Now, another thing that's really important is that reality is not perception. Interpretation of reality is part of that, okay? Because they say perception is reality. Perception is not reality, and the interpretation of that perception is reality. So that brings us over to the next one, which is, my interpretation shapes my experience and not just the facts. Let me say that again. My interpretation of what's going on shapes my experience, but not just the facts. So what if I am wrong and I'm just not seeing it? What if I am wrong and I'm unaware to that idea? That brings us over to the next contemplation. Sometimes what's missing is what I'm withholding. So, for example, calm, perspective, or patience. You could be holding back these things, like training yourself to be calm. Perspectives, dealing with alternative perspectives. There are different perspectives. Not everything is an attack. So when it comes to being patient, patient is something that you train yourself. And part of that is to understand different perspectives. If you put yourself in the logical framework, you can start to understand different perspectives. You don't necessarily have to agree with them, because guess what? You're allowed to have someone disagree with you. You're allowed to disagree with them, because it's not always about agreeableness. It's about clarity. It's about clarity, and it's about investment. Do I wish to invest this much frustration into this situation because it's going to give you that chemical cocktail of stress and impact your health. So what if you are incorrect about the big picture of things? So sometimes what's missing is what you're withholding, what I'm withholding. It could be maybe you're withholding the calm, you're withholding the perspective, you're withholding patience. What could I give to this moment that might actually shift that? How could I shift into the calm, shift into the perspective, shift into the patience? Compassion is the opposite of judgment. The more you judge, the more angry you will become. The more you have compassion for yourself and train yourself to have compassion for others, the more you will bring yourself to a place of calm. And that takes work. And it's worth it. It's absolutely worth it. I could tell you right now from my own experience, it's absolutely worth it. So the power of combining the practical and the physiological and psychological, all of it is valuable. You know, the deep breathing is by itself is not going to change you, but a full lung capacity inhale with a 4 count to 8 count and then release, you start to do that, pretty soon you'll disrupt. You got to remember, at the end of the day, your emotions are patterns, your thoughts are patterns, your behaviors are patterns. You got to train yourself to disrupt all three. That's what it's all about. And yes, people say, oh, well, it's easier said than done. No fucking shit. If it was easy, everybody would do it. But there's value on the other side of that work. It's work. And on the other side of it, your life gets to be different. And you know how it gets to be different? You get your mental health back. You get your hormones and stress back. You get to be in calm. You get to take command over your health. Because every time you're angry, I want you to imagine that you're injecting yourself with your own chemicals that are hurting your body, because that's what's happening on the back end. So the clever contemplations are here, but when you pair all these tools together, when you start to use all of these tools, the internal clarity, the deep breathing and a hold, right? And have the contemplations, you're going to be able to reframe your thoughts, start to change your mindset, start to shift things. So all I'm trying to do is give you both ends of the rope so you can actually pull yourself out from one moment to the next, because the real work is practicing everything in totality. Very important. Now, I'm going to give you one secret trick at the end of this video that will completely move your anger to a place of calm. And it just takes literally about 30 seconds. Literally about 30 seconds. And let me explain what it is. Here's what you can do to take back your calm, bring yourself to calm. What you're going to do, and trust me when I say it works, and I'm going to give you the brain science of why it works. The first thing you're going to do when you experience that angry impulse coming up, I want you to rotate your eyes counterclockwise, slowly and deliberately around 10 times. It's going to calm your nervous system down very fast. It sounds simplistic, but it taps into the neurobiological mechanisms of your brainstem. The ocular muscles are also going to help, and it's going to give you emotional regulation because the eyes are connected to the brain. It's the emotional regulation center of the brain. Here's how it works. When you rotate counterclockwise, it activates the ocular motor nucleus and calms the brain stem down. The eye movement is controlled by the cranial nerves, and that's rooted in the brain stem. And the brain stem is that fight or flight, right? So the ocular motor nerve is what it's all about. It's deliberate, it's controlled. If you do it with breathing on top of it, it's even better. It's deliberate, it's controlled. The eye movements signal to the brainstem that there's no threat, and it helps you calm down and regulate the fight or flight response. It's going to help you engage the parasympathetic nervous system, which is the slow, rhythmic motion of the eyes, and it activates parasympathetic activity. It's going to help lower your heart rate. It's going to help reduce muscle tension, and it's going to bring a sense of safety. This works. I know it does. Factually, it's backed by science. And this is similar to how slow breathing will also calm as well. So with the breathing and that, you could almost like re-hijack your brain and bring yourself to a place of calm. And the more you do this over and over again, the more you disrupt that old pattern. Here's the good news. The new pattern goes away. In other words, that old shitty habit of getting angry for no reason starts to go away. You learn to express your anger in a more healthy way. And that's what it's all about. It's about healthy expression of it. Because if you were going to defend yourself, you'd be using that anger wisely to protect yourself, right? You know, to actually use it. But when you're not controlling your anger controls you. You become a puppet to your anger. What it does is it improves the vagal tone, also known as the vagus nerve. The eye movements, lateral, you can move your eyes left and right as well. Circular and lateral, they stimulate the vagus nerve indirectly. It's going to synchronize your left and right brain hemispheres. It's bilateral. What that's going to do is has a whole brain calming effect. It's going to balance the emotions. The emotional brain and the logic, they start to work together. It's going to disrupt those overthinking or those angry thoughts that keep looping into your head. So make sure you breathe along with it, because you'll be amazed at how you feel in just a few minutes. Okay? Very important. And one of the things it does, it gives that prefrontal cortex, where the overthinking actually happens, a place to anchor the attention in the body and not in the mind, so you can be in your body, not in your head, and start to calm down. And it's going to stimulate what we call proprioceptive awareness. So in martial arts, when we used to do a lot of Filipino sensitivity drills, proprioception was the sense of touch, is that if my hand connected to my opponent's hand, I would sense where they're moving with their hand. That's proprioceptive. It's a sense of touch, right? So in this case, it stimulates the proprioceptive awareness. The muscles around your eyes are communicating with the brain in regards to the spatial awareness. So what happens is you're moving intentionally, grounds your nervous system when you move them that way. It grounds your nervous system. It gives you that present moment awareness to relax. Now, why do I do 10 times? Is 10 a specific number? Well, it just builds rhythm. It builds the practice. It gives you a set number of times. And what I've personally experienced myself, and I've had this experience, is that it will calm your nervous system down after maybe 7 of them. But I like to say, go the distance, go to number 10. It's going to help you recognize things that are non-threatening. It's going to help your predictable patterns. It's going to help you shift from hypervigilance to regulation so you can chill out. All right. In other words, it's long enough to be effective and short enough to do anywhere. That's my point. Very simple. So you sit down, quiet place if you can. And if you can't, that's fine. Breathe slowly, 4 count. Full inhale, hold it at the top, rotate the eyes counterclockwise, let it out for about 6 seconds. Rotate the eyes counterclockwise. You could go left and right as well. Counterclockwise will work fine. Repeat for 10 full circles, and you're going to feel a subtle shift in your brain. So yes, it's going to help you. It's going to regulate the brainstem and the vagus nerve. It's going to activate the parasympathetic. It's going to interrupt your mental loops and ground your attention span, synchronize the hemispheres, and most of all, induce a safe, rhythmic sensory experience. And this comes from EMDR, my study in the background of EMDR as it relates to PTSD. And it also comes from my studies in eye movement integration. And the beauty of what I learned in this process allowed me to develop my own system of eye movement integration, because I have a background in NLP, neuro-linguistic programming. And it allowed me to create my own system that not only helps people shift their beliefs, but also allows them to calm down or even disrupt overthinking with this same exact technique. And I can tell you right now, it works. I only want you to be calmer, and I don't want your body to be giving you all of these hormones that could be damaging your health over time. So have a great day. If you enjoyed this, please buy me a coffee. I like coffee. You can just go into the description and buy a coffee. And if you don't like coffee or you don't want to buy me a coffee, just press like, or leave a comment below of thank you. That's really made a difference. And that's all I want. All I want for you, for those angry people out there, I just want peace in your heart. Peace in your heart and contentment. That's what I want for you. Take care. See you on the next episode. Mario D. Leone signing off.